All right, welcome to the Jeff Dubay Show. It's a Twins Tuesday. We're live at Floyd's Bar in Victoria, talking Minnesota Twins baseball with our new sponsor, Coors Light. Make sure to check out Coors Light specials when you stop in here at Floyd's. Jeff Dubay with Brandon Ward. Ted Schwetzler has the week off as he is on vacation. Brandon, the week that was for the Twins, it definitely took a turn for the better. Last time we were here, we were talking about a team that was in disarray. We were talking about a team that had started with a 1-5 road trip and then come home to a 12-3 drubbing in their home opener. And basically what we were pleading for was just to see some decent baseball, to see some starting pitching that gives you a chance, a bullpen that doesn't implode, and just see some good competitive games. And we saw more than that. We saw them take 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, winning 2 in a row from a team that had been previously unbeaten, and then 2 or 3 from a Cleveland team that is really struggling to hit the ball right now. But nonetheless, a nice little 4-2 swing at home, and then things got away from in Kansas City a little bit. But let's start at the beginning. The home opener we talked about last week, the 12-3 drubbing. After that, you get a nice, really nice outing from Gibson. Gibson gives you a solid effort, and you get a 3-1 win against a previously unbeaten Kansas City team.
Yeah, I mean, basically they were due to come through like that. When we last met here, they were 1-6, so there was nowhere to go but up at that point. And the pitching staff picked them up a little bit through the rest of the week, and the bats still, not really there. They kind of come and go. You've seen a little bit from Joe Mauer,
yep,
and you've seen a little bit from Brian Dozier and a little bit from Trevor Plouffe at times. But everybody else is just kind of out there, kind of whipping in the wind, and hopefully the guys will start coming around, because you can't go a whole lot further with, especially a bunch of young guys, before you started to think about plugging and playing some different options out there.
Well, one thing we were awfully concerned about a week ago, and it's still it's going to be hit and miss, I think, throughout the season, is that bullpen. And when you look at the Twins bullpen, it looks like the kind of bullpen right now that's going to have trouble putting out fires. Like when things are getting away from them, when games are getting ugly, like that 12-3 home opener. This looks like the kind of bullpen that's going to have a hard time going into a ball game and getting things in check and holding things in check. But, we brought this up last week. The ultimate role of a bullpen is to give you holds and saves when you've got leads. When you are up a couple runs getting into the 6th, 7th inning, do you have a group that's going to get it to your closer and a closer who's going to close it down? Obviously, they got the closer. We did see this past week that they were able to handle some of those situations. Have they blown? I don't think they've blown a save situation yet, have they?
Yeah, I'm stumped. I can't think of
Well, they haven't had a lot of them.
That's
but they managed to hold leads.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you get everything lined up the way you want it with the 7th inning guy, 8th inning guy, 9th inning guy, and all the guys before that working, if you need a little extra boost from your pen, things tend to go in the right direction. And even at times too, they can pick up guys like Mike Pelfrey, who only went 5 innings the other night, and give him 6 innings of solid relief. But at the same time, it is still a low-ceiling group of guys that are going to have to be augmented at some point this season as some of the the veterans fall out of favor. And they got some kids down in the minor leagues that are doing some good things. AAA specifically has a really good bullpen going right now. AA's been dusted up a little bit. Those big names that we're always talking about have really struggled. But if they need to go to the minor leagues, they've got the options with a bunch of guys that can help them out. And I wouldn't be stunned if that comes sooner rather than later.
It is a Twins Tuesday. Jeff Dubay, Brandon Warren. We are live at Floyd's in Victoria. And Brandon, number one, let the folks know where they can read your stuff.
Yeah, at Brandon_Warren is my Twitter handle. 105 The Tickets Cold Omaha, which is a new project that we've been working on here for a few months now. And then Fangraphs on Fridays, I do a fantasy baseball column. And pretty much anything else you want, you can find on BrandonWarren.com. And I kind of filter everything through there and through my Twitter feed. And
we're also going to start working, we already have it up and running. We're going to start adding more to it, the Twins Tuesday Facebook page. So like when you go ahead and write a story, go ahead and feel free to post it to that timeline as well. The Twins Tuesday Facebook page, and folks, feel free to head over there and like it. We would definitely appreciate it. You had a little scoop today.
Yeah, Terry Ryan in the front row in Syracuse in a rescheduled doubleheader. A little bad weather out there in upstate New York, and so Terry Ryan was out watching Alex Meyer pitch 6 innings of shutout ball. Obviously, needing a lot of positivity from him after the first 2 starts kind of went awry. 11 strikeouts, 3 walks, just 2 hits, I believe, and left the game 0-0. But at the same time, the next pitch in the 7th inning was a walk-off home run.
Not from him, though.
So gave it up A.J. Ochter in there in the 7th inning to try and keep the game tied at 0, and first pitch was a home run. So tough start to the doubleheader. They did win the nightcap, so still positive things going on for those guys down there.
We aren't breaking any news here when we tell you, baseball has been, always will be about starting pitching. I mean, you got to. There are obviously other elements, but starting pitching is the most key element to any successful ball club. When you get starting pitchers that just don't give you innings, don't give you a chance, guys who are out by the third, fourth, fifth inning, guys who are putting you down by 3-4 runs in the early part of ball games, it throws the entire team out of whack. It's like having a bad goaltender in hockey. We saw what Darcy Kemper did to the Wild this year. When he was struggling, the whole team imploded. They couldn't play the game. And when you have starting pitching that goes out and gives up early runs, big runs, doesn't give you innings, it puts the bullpen into complete chaos. The whole team just starts to. They show up at the ballpark with their chins to their chests. Everything goes negative. The Twins are getting some good starts right now, and it's kind of started with Kyle Gibson. As a matter of fact, we just talked about it briefly. He gave them their first home win with the win over the 3-1 effort over the Royals. Pitched a decent, albeit kind of odd game against Kansas City again last night. But nonetheless, you're seeing some signs. A lot of people thinking breakout for Gibson. What did he win? 14 last year, I believe.
13 or 14.
Yeah,
double digits. So
a lot of people looking breakout for him this year. He's starting to look the part.
Yeah, and obviously the tough thing for him so far has been the strikeouts just haven't been there, but he's been rolling the ground balls. The walks have been a little bit here or there too, but at the same time, if the process is good, the results will eventually follow suit. And that's kind of the hope right now with Gibson, who is trying to seek out that consistency that you need from a guy who was a first-round pick for you and came up, struggled out of the gates in 2013 a little bit. 2014 was a little better, and when you have a guy that is so bad in losses and so good in wins, you obviously wonder what you need to do to make him a more complete pitcher. Now, whether that is getting his slider over, whether it's commanding his four-seamer to work his sinker off of that, all these things are things he talks about quite frequently. But he's kind of the wild card in that rotation. They're not expecting a ton from him with guys like Phil Hughes and Ricky Nolasco are hopefully the top guys, and Irvin Santana was supposed to be that guy. But at the same time, they want to see what they have in him because he's not exactly a kid either. Everybody thinks he's just a recent draft pick. He's like 27, 28 years old too.
Well, and then the guy who's been a pleasant surprise for many, Tommy Malone. He's 2-0. He's posted an ERA slightly over 2. He followed up the Gibson start, if I'm not mistaken, with the win against Kansas City. Did he not? Yeah,
it's the exact same matchup tonight with Tommy Malone and Jason Vargas that it was 5 days ago. And the big thing with Malone was that I believe he was either staked to a lead or he gave up 2 runs, in quick fashion to the Royals, but he went into damage control and continued to give the team innings. If you have a guy that it starts to snowball on, he's got to find a way to pitch through that. And he's already a guy that pitches through things. He throws 87 miles an hour from the left side, and he's a command and control guy. So he's already kind of a savvy, situational kind of guy. But he needs to keep that going. There's a thin margin for error for a guy like that. But at the same time, too, what will be interesting for me tonight is to see how offenses respond for the second straight night of seeing pitchers for the second time in a row.
And he's like we said, off to a 2-0 start. The guy is the number 5 starter in this rotation. The guy, he's not somebody who, he's kind of a placeholder. Yeah, he's not somebody you're building a future around. But he's an established, reasonably successful left-handed major league pitcher. And I think he's the guy they wanted to see win that job. Number one, he gives them a lefty in the rotation for what it's worth. And number 2, he gives them kind of a steadying influence out there. You could have opened the year with May and Meyer, and you could have had let's just say you go north with all youngsters. There's room for implosion there. There's a possibility of all out just implosion and absolutely destroying the bullpen. With a guy like Malone, you had a pretty good idea what you're going to get. He was the safe guy to go north with, and he's been the star of the rotation so far.
Yeah, and I think the thing with him too is he's found money for the Twins. Obviously, it's like when you find something, you just use it till it doesn't work anymore, and that's it. And so they obviously got him for Sam Fuld, who they repurposed.
Yep.
The A's designated him for assignment. The Twins picked him up, and then the Twins basically resold him to the A's, where he's starting now. And so Malone, there's not a high acquisition cost for them. There's not a high, reason for them to hang on to him. If he keeps rolling, they'll take what they can get from him, and if it goes south, that's just it. So there's room for him to be pushed aside by a star or a stud prospect, but at the same time, they're not going to push him out just to push him out.
We do typically open the show and spend a fair amount of time on starting pitching, as because like we said, it all starts with starting pitching. when it comes to Major League Baseball. Phil Hughes is a bit of a mystery in April, isn't he? I mean, not just this one, but I mean last year as well. It's just he's not the fastest starter out of spring.
No, he was an enigma last year too, and he got through the first 2-3 starts and then just turned it on. Had a real nice stretch where the walks went away and the home runs didn't come as frequently as they had in New York. And I think basically, you're just looking for the same kind of thing here. It's good command of the cutter, pushing it in and out of the zone. The four-seamer's good. Doesn't throw a lot of curveballs or anything like that. He's basically just a pound the strike zone guy.
Yeah.
And if he can do that, there's reason to believe he can be almost as good as last year. Maybe not quite as good as last year, but almost as good.
Yeah, I don't expect any significant drop-off. I think it's when all said and done, he's going to look a lot like he did a year ago. Didn't really look bad against Cleveland. He had the fingernail issue again. The fingernail split on him, which forced him to go away from the breaking ball. I mean, I forget what inning it happened, but he gets to a point in the game where the fingernail and the right index finger goes, it cracks, and at that point he just says no more breaking balls. I mean, you just can't snap it off. Talking about the pitch, not the nail, but he basically went with fastballs and some off-speed stuff, and then just got through the best he could. I mean, it was a 4-2 game. He didn't get shelled. He gave him a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you got to piece it together at that point when your repertoire gets cut in half. But I want to say it was like the 5th inning too, so he still had a little time. But maybe it was a little earlier than that. But
it was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, the biggest thing for him, again, just with the walks is command the strike zone and do the things that he did last year that made him successful, and that's no guarantee. Obviously, he was coming over from a really rough season in New York with the Yankees, so that they found him and he had such a nice year last year was actually a feather in Terry Ryan's cap.
Yeah, and he says that the nail not a problem going forward because basically he just crazy glue it down.
Yep,
that's kind of funny, but whatever works.
He was fine in the bullpen the next session he had a day or two later, so. Full steam ahead, I guess.
Looking at the rotation some more, Trevor May. Trevor May went a couple days ago, got a win against the Indians. Now, the Indians are a team that is just they're scoring no runs. Now, this is a team, if I'm not mistaken, that Sports Illustrated has winning the World Series, correct? SI took the Indians to win their first World Series since 1948. As a matter of fact, I just read that the other day. So I was a little stunned. I was a little taken aback. I didn't pick up the SI spring training preview or anything this year, but they have the Indians winning it all. And this is a team that they've got some good young arms. The really nice young arms. They got the right-hander who threw Friday night, power guy.
Salazar.
No.
Carrasco.
No.
Kluber. The reigning Cy Young winner.
Oh, was he sharp? Wow, was he nasty?
He thought he was gonna no-hit the Twins, and they ended up scratching a couple across, and eventually
he's filthy.
Eventually won. But yeah, when they can come at you with Kluber, Carrasco, and Salazar, then T.J. House, obviously been dusted up a little bit his first 2 times up, but he's a nice lefty. And they've got the pieces of a rotation that can win the division for sure. They do,
but Trevor May gets a win against them the other day, and Trevor May did it basically throwing fastballs up and changeups down. And you know what? It just goes to show what can happen if you get some command of the strike zone. We're not just talking about, for people who don't know, there's a difference between control and command. Control just means can you throw a strike. Command means can you put it where you need to within the strike zone. And if you've got the command, if you're a hard thrower, if you're a power arm, and Trevor May is, you can live up in the zone. As a matter of fact, I think the best 0-2 pitch in baseball is a letter high fastball. I love it. I mean, I hate it when a guy gets 0-2 and then he starts to nibble and he throws junk in the dirt and stuff that's not even. I mean, you've got to throw something that's going to at least tantalize a hitter. I mean, a hitter's going to be on his heels a little bit 0-2. He's going to be a little defensive, and all of a sudden, I think the best thing to do when a guy's on his heels is throw heat. I mean, you just don't have time to react to it. And I think that letter high fastball is impossible to lay off of and impossible to catch up to. I think it's an unhittable pitch. It looks like a cookie as it's coming to you. It looks like like oh my God, this guy just made an 0-2 mistake. He just threw a fastball over and he got it up in the zone. But no, if you got to make sure you're elevated enough. If it gets belly high, it'll get pounded. But if it's letter high, nobody can catch up with it. I mean, if you're throwing, even if you're throwing 93, 92, 93, anywhere upwards, to the mid-90s, nobody can catch up to letter high. If it's tits high, you can't touch it. And it's a hard thing to lay off of.
Letter high, 93 looks like 96 or 97, and that's the other thing, too, is your eyes get bigger than, than the bat, I guess.
And he had that going. He really
the other day. Did, and I think the two-seamer was good for him, too. He's got good velocity. The control has been the biggest thing, too. His only walk this season was an intentional walk. And this is a guy who walked like 4 batters per 9 in the minor. He had command like Alex Meyer, who we talk about nonstop about command, and command and control for both of the guys, really. And so to see that through, I think, 11 or 12 innings so far this year, that he's only walked one guy and it was an intentional walk, that's huge. Absolutely huge.
You know what else he's got that you don't always think of when we know he's a power arm, and we know he's young, we know he's raw, so you don't expect to see a polished changeup. But he that was a big pitch for him the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was heat high and change up down, and then darting around a little two-seamer, darting in and out. I mean, it just goes to show, it's a matter of, you don't have to have a big hammer. You have to have a filthy slider. You don't have to come with a 12-6 Dwight Gooden curveball. If you can change speeds, hard high, down low, soft low, you can get people out.
Yep, change eye levels and that kind of thing. It's fair to wonder what the influence too of pitching coach Neil Allen is on the changeup. Again, you beat the point to death, but Tampa Bay loves their changeups, and that's where Neil Allen came over from. It's a minimally invasive pitch to throw on your arm. If you can get the release point down, if you can get it to where it's a similar arm slot from where you're throwing that fastball, hitters don't have a chance.
Jeff Dubay and a Twins Tuesday. We are at Floyd's in Victoria. We're here every Tuesday. Last Tuesday we were here. It was 70-something degrees and sunny, and we were out on the patio in that thatched hut where the stage is. It was fantastic. This week we're inside, but as the summer progresses, there'll be plenty of nice weather, and we'll be outside in that patio, and I can't encourage folks enough to get out here to Floyd's. It's 5 minutes west of Eden Prairie. I mean, people think Victoria is like out in the middle of nowhere. It's not. And we're right down the road from Deer Run, so, make it a nice little Tuesday. Get in your 18 at Deer Run and swing on by to Floyd's for a Twins Tuesday. It's going to be a fantastic summer for all of us, and we'll be enjoying life out there on that sun-soaked patio soon enough. As I look outside right now, and I see it's literally snowing sideways. But I mean, we were just a week ago we were loving it out there, so it'll come again. We have no doubt about that. But Floyd's is a fantastic place, and we've only been 2 weeks into our engagement here, and we love it. Also, we want to welcome Coors Light. Coors Light, new beverage sponsor of the Jeff Dubay Show. That's not just Twins Tuesday. It is every day of the Jeff Dubay Show, which, by the way, is very, very close to going Monday through Friday. They're actually going to start making me work a little tiny bit for my money here at the Alive and Social Network. We're just on the brink of going to 5 days a week. Much thanks to Coors Light for making that happen. As we God, 5 days a week. I don't know if I can do 5 to 5. I mean, I've been doing 3 days a week for like 6 months. I mean, I've really gotten programmed for laziness.
When's the last time you worked 5 days a week? About a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it was been when I was at 1500. I mean, that's a long time ago.
I remember those days.
But those were 4-hour shows. I mean, this is at least only 1 hour show. I mean, that 5 days a week, 4 hours.
Isn't that just bonkers?
That's insane. 4 hours. I don't know how we did it. I don't know. Did Mac and Judd still do 4? They must.
I don't even know. To be honest with you, I haven't listened to the station since a year ago.
Well, see, because once I was gone, there just was nothing left for you, right?
Well, yeah, basically,
understandable.
Isn't that right?
Understandable. That's. Nothing against P-Mac and Judd. They're friends of mine. But I mean, I feel you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the loyalty. Back to the Twins. This is a Twins Tuesday from Floyd's. If the Twins do something with Meyer, I mean, at some point we're going to see Meyer. I mean, you said that Ryan was down there to watch him, and obviously me firsthand saw 6 dazzling innings. He had a couple of rough ones to start the year at AAA, so he's not. I don't think he's on the brink of getting called up. But at the same time, I don't think they want to wait too long on a kid who's already 25. I mean, if he gives him another dazzler, they might make a move. If he gives him 2 more, I think he'd probably be here. What do? Do you put Pelfrey to the bullpen? What's the move?
Well, you might even have to do that if Nolasco comes back and Mays start in Seattle here on, I think, Saturday or whatever goes well. Because if you've got 5 guys moving forward that are getting it done for you, it's hard to sneak in a new guy, even if he does have the high ceiling like Meyer does. I'm not even making a height joke there, just in terms of potential. And the other thing too is you're not going to move Tommy Malone out of there like you might have coming into the season.
He's solid right now.
Yeah, I mean he's basically been the bell cow rotation wise, and so it's a non-starter to think about moving him out of there. It'll depend on how things go with Nolasco on Saturday in Cedar Rapids. He's going down there to make his first rehab start, maybe his only rehab start. Haven't really. I think the plan is for only one, just because it's been just 15 days on the disabled list. But if you move Pelfrey to the bullpen, you have to make a decision on Pelfrey and May to bring back Nolasco. If you bring Meyer up, then you're making the decision on both of those guys. It's basically what it boils down to. That's tough. That's a tough decision. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision.
Yeah. Hey, let's want to take a quick break, Patrick? We'll play a couple of promos here and regroup. We'll come back and get into some other elements beyond just the starting rotation. We're talking some bullpen because a week ago we just thought this was this was like just a firehouse mess. I mean, just pouring gasoline, just turning things into infernos. It's been a little bit better in the last week. It is what it is. But you got some interesting people out there, from the J.R. Grahams to the to Aaron Thompson. You got some guys throwing it all right, and Blaine Boyer in and out. We'll talk about some of these guys next.
With Suhan Unfiltered, sports columnist for the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, Jim Suhan presents in-depth conversations with the best writers and sports personalities in the area. Suhan brings professional journalism flavor without the verbal censoring. Find out what unfiltered really means. Only on the Alive and Social Network. Suhan
Reach for this one.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back online,
Just turn it on. That took a very PG direction.
along comes this hit show.
I'm constantly burping on stage.
Hey, you heard about Madonna, right?
Twin Cities hit show with Rusty, Courtney, and Chuck.
Had she fallen to the ground and her eyes rolled into the back of her head, what would you, Tim Mahoney, have done?
I'd have tried to make out with her.
Nice.
Get in line.
The Twin Cities hit show with Rusty, Courtney, and Chuck airs live daily, 9:30 to 10:30 on the Alive and Social Network.
Ever swallowed a bug or choke like Courtney on stage?
Yeah.
I meant to.
Look at Patrick go old school. Old school Jeff Dubay show. We're back. Jeff Dubay show on a Tuesday. Nice production value by my man Patrick over here. How about that? He ran that whole break off his phone.
He's getting it.
Not bad. Not bad. We are at Victoria. We are Victoria's. We're Floyd's in Victoria. It's not Victoria's in Floyd. It's Floyd's in Victoria. Just think of it like a date. Floyd is in Victoria, not the other way around.
Man.
It's just a way to remember. They're both proper nouns.
As far as devices go, that works, I guess.
It does. I mean, assuming you subscribe to a conventional love life. I mean, there's room for alternative lifestyles out there. Maybe your Victoria gets into your Floyd. But where we're from, Floyd's is in Victoria.
There you go.
And it's easy to get to, just down Highway 5. Just a couple of minutes past Eden Prairie, for God's sake. It's just a breeze to get to. As a matter of fact, we took Highway 7 from uptown today, and there was no traffic at all. We took 7 out to 41, Excelsior there.
It was nice.
Just a breeze.
I came from downtown. The only thing that I didn't like was my
car?
well, that too, but my iPhone didn't tell me that 494 ramp from 394 was closed, so I had to go into Wayzata and come back around. But
Wayzata is scenic. I mean,
yeah,
you got to see. That's kind of Disher's. That's kind of Disher's hood. It's kind of his. I mean, he's a Tonka boy.
You're not allowed to say the word hood and Wayzata in the same sentence, so I don't think.
You know what I mean. I mean, it's I'm very white. So when I say hood, I mean people take it with a grain of salt.
Like the one on your shirt.
Like when I say I'm street, people realize that I mean Sesame Street.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the Twins. We've talked about this before that. The Twins have always been able to kind of piece together a bullpen, and really all you need, at least to get by, is you got to have a closer, and you got to have a reliable eighth inning guy, and they should both be power arms. And the Twins do. They have that with Casey Fiend and Glenn Perkins. I mean, I'm not saying Fiend is the best eighth inning guy in baseball, but he's reasonably reliable. He can throw it, and obviously Perkins is an elite closer. Humping it up to 95 from the left side. I mean, I don't care what side you come from when you throw it as hard as he does. So
he's working less than you these days, though.
Yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, that's not easy to do. Good line.
It's a good gig if you can get it, though.
Yeah, correct. And but then you kind of have to just kind of piece it together after that. I mean, the contending teams, they might have some high-end guys.
Well, look across the field tonight.
Well, Kansas City's got the ultimate bullpen right now. I mean, they got so many power arms, including the cat you saw last night throwing 97.
At Brett Lowry's head, Calvin Herrera.
Yes, Herrera, thank you. Yes, and I mean, just absolutely humping it up there at 97. Now he's suspended for 5 games, so you're not going to see him.
He appealed it.
Oh,
so he's going to play. He's up for the series. They're gonna hear his case. But
okay.
I don't know that he's going to get much less than that. You throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball at somebody's chin, that should cost you 5 games.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a lenient penalty. So when kind of piecing it together, like the Twins are this year. We've talked about this before. I mean, this year you're looking at guys like Blaine Boyer, maybe Pelfrey at some point. Aaron Thompson,
Tim
Stauffer, and really, it's my opinion that you can get by with guys like these because the Twins, we've seen them do it in the past, where it's about matchups. Although I will say this. Molitor's not as interested in massaging his bullpen and finding matchups as Gardy was. Like Gardy would be like, I know what Aaron Thompson is, I know what Stauffer is, I know what Blaine Boyer is, and I know I'm not going to throw this guy out there and ask him for 6 outs. I'm going to try to get 2 outs out of Thompson in the 7th. Then I'm going to come back with Boyer, see if he can get me an out in the 7th and maybe an out in the 8th. Then we come back with Fieldbar because I think he can get me an out here in the 9th. They just kind of massage it and put it together with matchups where you're asking each guy to get out a hitter or two because you see a matchup that's favorable or just style wise you think this guy's got a chance against that guy. But Molitor throws a guy out there and says, "Give me 2. Go out there and give me 6 outs." And with some it's worked, with some it hasn't. With Aaron Thompson, it has to this point.
The problem is his entire bullpen's with guys like that. It's different when you got 1 or 2 guys that you're piecing it together for. But you got those guys, and we haven't even mentioned J.R. Graham, who you and I have talked about.
Well, he's intriguing.
Needing to protect, even though he does throw 95, 96 miles an hour. But when you have a bullpen full of those guys, it's something to have to deal with. Now, I think. When you and I look at it from an outsider's standpoint, we're like, that's different. I think pitchers would probably actually prefer to work those 2 innings.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they would prefer to get lathered
but
up.
But if pitchers got to do what they want to do all the time, their ERAs would all be 5 point whatever.
Yeah.
I mean they all think they can get it. Hey, throw me. I'll get the last 9 for you, Skip. I'm ready.
Exactly.
I got 9 outs in me tonight. Yeah, please. That's
exactly. Yeah, and the other the thing about being a reliever is playing the long game, knowing how many times you're going to have to throw over the course of a season, and trying not to get 100 and some odd innings from a guy when most guys need to stop about 80 innings. Not everybody's got Anthony Suarez that can give you 100 innings out of the bullpen every year.
And you don't know how quality the innings are going to be, especially once you get to a tired arm stage of the season.
Yeah, dead arm, and some guys are going through that now.
Yeah, that's shocking. It shouldn't happen at this stage, regardless of how worked or overworked Penn gets at early stages of the season. But we definitely see a different philosophy. And you know what? You were just on the news talking about the Twins playing at a faster pace. This has to have something to do with it. I mean, like a game it was one of the games over the weekend where Thompson was asked to get 6 outs, and he went out and got 6 outs.
That was Pelfrey's night. I want to say
Saturday,
Friday.
Well, whatever it was.
Friday, I think.
Thompson pitched 2 innings. Now, a year ago, that would have been a couple of. He would have gone and pitched to a couple of hitters, gotten a couple outs. And then they'd go to the pen and get Boyer, and they'd ask Boyer to get an out, and then Boyer would go out to start the next inning, and he'd get the first out of the following inning, and then they'd go out and get Boyer out, and they'd bring in Graham and ask Graham to get an out, maybe 2. I mean, basically you're going with 2 or 3 less pitching changes a game when you go with the style of just saying, okay, go out there and give me 6 outs, Thompson. That kind of a thing. And I'm not saying Thompson is this lights out reliever who you're going to get 6 outs from on a on-demand basis. I mean, that's I don't think he's that, but he's been a pleasant surprise at this point. And again, he's a lefty who's throwing low 90s, and he goes in and throws strikes, which is the most important thing a reliever can do. You can't have a reliever come in and just start throwing the ball all over the place. But so he's done what he's been asked, and he's actually probably surpassed expectations to a certain extent. But this is more about philosophy than performance. This conversation, I like the philosophy where Molitor's trying to trust people to give him a full inning, or maybe to give him 2 full innings. Go out and get me 6 outs. And it's to this point, it's really, I don't want to say it's successful, but it's been intriguing. It's been a way to find out what some of these guys are made of.
Yeah, and I was sitting in the seats on Sunday to watch the Trevor May game. I brought my wife to the game, and I was thinking about I was thinking about. If you watched this team and you were sitting behind the dugout, would you have any idea that there was a different manager managing this club based on what you're seeing on the field? And I got to thinking, not really, but now that you're bringing up the bullpen usage, that's about the only place though, because the batting order is pretty much the same. You're still seeing infielders in the outfield, so there's still some things that are not ideal. But at the same time, the bullpen deployment has obviously been. Very contrary to what I think Ron Gardner would have done had he been brought back for another season.
Yeah, I mean, look at Aaron Thompson right now. He's thrown 10 innings. I mean, Fiend has thrown 3, and Perkins has thrown 4 and 2/3. Thompson's thrown 10.
That's the definition of running a guy.
J.R. Graham has thrown 4.
But Graham also pitched like every single day for the first week too.
Yeah, and let's talk about Graham quickly because we're going to get off pitching here shortly. And I think Phil Mackey had a tweet that was just dead on over the weekend. That you can see why the Twins, why they're enamored with this guy. He's got a live arm. He's a right-handed power arm. He's up there humping it to 95, 96 with a little jump. It's got a little giddy up. It's got a little movement. And he's raw. I mean, it's not enough to throw 95, 96. I mean, you've got to be able to, you got to locate it a little bit. You got to have some movement to it. You got to be able to change speeds. You got to do something to keep people off balance. If you just go in there and throw 96, 96, 96, 96, even if it's moving, they're going to hit it. I mean, you got to. So that's the difference between having a live arm and knowing how to pitch. And he's not. He shouldn't be in the big leagues right now, but he is because he's a Rule 5 guy. And a Rule 5 guy means you were able to draft him basically off of another team's minor league system, out of another team's minor league system. In this case, the Atlanta Braves. But you've got to keep him at the major league level this entire season, or you got to give him back, or you could discuss a settlement with the Braves. But like you pointed out to me before the show, the Braves would probably rather have Graham back than discuss a settlement. So the tweet that I referred to from PMAC was that you can see why they're intrigued with the talent. But he's going to be awfully hard to hide because he's getting hit, and he's going to keep getting hit until he finds a way to get and keep hitters off balance. Changing speeds, like you said, changing the eye level. He's just not polished. He's just not ready to be at this level. But he's talented enough that you're going to do everything you can to just see. The baseball season's so long; it's hard to believe they can hide him for a year.
Yeah, I mean, the weird things at play here is that he get just battered at Double-A, and he was going through some arm stuff. The velocity was down, and you can imagine what a guy like that looks like with velocity down.
Oh yeah,
velocity is basically your only thing.
Yep.
But at the same time, if the Twins hadn't taken him with, I think, the number, 4 pick in the Rule 5 draft, somebody else was taking him. I mean, there's no doubt he was on the radar for multiple teams. And I have a lot of Braves fans in my Twitter feed by just some kind of stroke of luck, and they're all just bitter about the fact that he's gone because they thought he had something left. They thought he was interesting.
There's something there.
And it's clear that there is. I mean, he's got a nice arm, short kind of slight build. It's kind of funny that he can generate that kind of torque.
Somebody's got to teach him how to wear his pants and his stirrups.
Well, you've heard that story, haven't you?
No.
Oh, you're not going to like that. So he wears them because his mom's blind.
Oh, and I feel bad.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think you've heard the story. Yeah, no,
well, but there's got to be more to it.
So his mom can see him on the field.
Okay. So she can pick him up.
You might want to edit
that. Okay. So she's legally blind.
Legally blind.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wearing high socks, by the way. I don't mean it that way. But I mean, he has He's got to order his pants with a little shorter inseam. I mean, I don't like you just bunch them up. You don't just if you want to wear, your pants just below the knee, that's fine. But then order pants that go just below your knee. I mean, you can see how he's got them all really, really bunched up to pull them up that high. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
That's not how you do it.
It's not comfortable either. I can't imagine.
You know what it reminds me of? That reminds me of Steve Bedrosian. Remember Bedrock? He used to wear them like that.
Yeah.
He used to wear them like that.
Bring it back to 1991 there.
Yeah. My boys in the bullpen: Steve Bedrosian, Carl Willis, Mark Guthrie. Setting it up for Aggie.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good crew actually. It was a really Terry Leach. It was a solid bullpen. There's no doubt about it. And then now that's not. That's a contending bullpen. And we were talking earlier about the difference between a contending bullpen and a piece it together kind of a bullpen.
But we were also talking
about
how you should put together that bullpen.
Yeah.
Because we were discussing, what's the point of having a matchup lefty if you're going to lose 90 games?
Yeah.
You're not neutralizing Travis Hafner in the 7th inning with a lefty like Dennis Reyes 7 years ago. You don't need to do that.
Jeez, talking about going to the Wayback Machine.
Exactly. I mean, if you're going to stink, you may as well stink with the best possible players involved.
Hey, let's talk some position players here. We are live at Floyd's in Victoria. It's Jeff Dubay. It's Twins Tuesday. Ted Schwetzler is off. Patrick Disher's here producing.
It's snowing.
And it is snowing sideways. Jeff Dubay with Brandon Warren talking baseball in the snow. But at least... How lucky were the Twins, by the way? I mean, they couldn't have had better weather for that opening homestand. And I mean, we're sitting there watching games on TV or in person in your case, and it's it's sunny, it's 70, it's perfect. I'm watching the games online, so I'm getting the Cleveland Indians feed, and I'm hearing the announcers talk about what a blessing it is to get through here and get this kind of weather in April in Minnesota, and then here it is a week later, and it's snowing sideways.
The second that their wheels up for Kansas City for this series, and we just go down the foxhole weathave this is not interesting.
Well, that is actually one of the underrated bonuses of the first 2 weeks of the season. Is the Twins still they have not come across a single rain out, weather out, snow out. I mean, they've got nothing on the makeup schedule yet.
AAA hasn't been so fortunate, but the Twins have so far. Even AA hasn't. I think they got rained out too, and that's down in the south. So the Twins have been the fortunate son there. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think people realize what a strain of rainouts and makeups put on a team down the stretch. I mean. I mean, number one, some of these things get pushed off, until the dog days. You wind up playing them in August. It seems like quite often right after the All-Star break, and that's a time of the year where you're down, you're tired, you're dragging, you got some dead arms, your bullpen is thin. I mean, the longer you can go into the season without having any makeups on the schedule, it's definitely a bonus. I mean, it's more of a factor for a contending team, but it's a pain in the ass for any kind of.
You could also see why the Tigers wanted to get that one in with the Twins when the Twins were just floundering. It was like a shark with blood in the water. You remember the game that they waited like 3 hours to get it in?
Yeah.
The series finale of the opener series. So obviously there was reason to get that one in too, but they've managed to avoid the bad weather like we're experiencing right now.
When if folks want to, argue on how much Major League Baseball wants to avoid these types of situations, there's a reason why your first series of the year always has an off day in it. I mean, you saw that when the Twins opened on the road. They played a ball game in Detroit, and the next day they were off.
Same here, too.
They came home, and they played a game against Kansas City. The next day they're off. They always put that off day in that opening series just so you have a chance to make up a ball game if you have to, or to move the schedule around if the forecast looks really sketchy. So anyway, let's, we've talked some bullpen, we talked some starting pitching. I want to get into the batting order and some of the things that are going on with this team offensively and in the field. What do you think of some of the lineup changes? Because they went into the year. I mean, we know that this team doesn't have a murderer's row in the middle. I mean, you went into the year, you're thinking, okay, Santana's going to lead it off. You weren't quite sure. I mean, the number 2 spot could be Dozier, it could be Hunter, it could be Mauer. They went with Hunter for a while, and they finally settled on moving Hunter up to number 2. I don't want to say settled because it's a work in progress. It's going to be all year long. But they moved Hunter up to number 2. They had Mauer 3 and Dozier 4 for a little bit. Then they moved Dozier. Dozier batted leadoff on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Santana sat and Dozier batted leadoff.
Yeah, and then Dozier batted leadoff that day. But I think for the most part, right now, the lineup that they prefer, at least at the top, goes Santana, Hunter, Mauer, Dozier, Vargas. Mm-hmm. Correct? What do you think of that? Is that the way it should be?
I think Santana's going to find his way towards the bottom of it before too long if he doesn't start swinging. I mean, 13 strikeouts and no walks and like 40 plate appearances going into yesterday. It hasn't been a good start for the young man, and hopefully he figures it out to the extent that he plays like he ought to, because this is well below his talent level. But at the same time, Torrey Hunter, obviously a level of familiarity and comfortability with that spot, batted there 70 times last year, and exclusively in his first year in Detroit in that 2 spot. So there's a level of comfort there that's good for him. I don't think he's a prototypical number 2 hitter.
No, but he seems comfortable.
But
he does.
You don't always have to be the prototype that way. At the same time, Joe Mauer in the 3 spot is pretty much by the book.
Yep.
Whatever. He could bat second if they need Dozier to lead off. If they move Santana down, there's some fluidity there. And then I like Dozier in the cleanup hole just as the guy with the most power in the bunch to bring guys home.
Oswaldo Arcia is never going to learn how to catch a fly ball, is he? I mean, he's just always going to be a train wreck.
That was I tweeted.
He's embarrassing. I mean, this is a guy who got hit in the head with a fly ball in Tampa a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, in the head with a fly ball.
As soon as it happened last night, I tweeted, "Get with the program."
Wear a helmet. Jesus.
I mean, it was like Granlund when he missed the wide open net last night.
How bad was that? And he missed it by like 3 feet. I mean, it wasn't even close.
So I posed. I was like, whose was worse?
Oh.
And I think it was Arcia, because honestly, he just kind of hot dogged it. He went from catching it, above your head where you have the most control.
Well, he strikes me as an idiot.
To kind of down by the.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a dummy, isn't he?
I haven't spoken.
I mean, anybody who's got that little ducktail thing going on underneath the head.
He's pretty psyched about that haircut. He's pretty psyched about that.
He seems a little flaky to me. Yeah. I mean, he's a nice bat. TK's old philosophy was, can he swing a bat? And if the answer was yes, he says, we'd find a place for him. Anybody can swing a bat, we find a place for him. It's hard to hide outfielders. It's hard to hide corner outfielders at Target Field. I think it's hard to hide corner outfielders anywhere, but I think it's really hard at Target Field. But you just can't boot fly balls, for God's sake. I mean, I've got like 6 years of error-free fly ball shagging during batting practice at the Metrodome. I never lost one in the lights, for God's sake. It's not that hard to catch a fly ball.
Is that on your resume?
Well, it's if I ever had to put together a resume, but unfortunately, so is a felony, and that kind of cancels out my 6 years of flawless fielding.
But
at the
it's a
Metrodome.
dead heat to cancel both out, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much. But in all honesty, I never understood the whole problem with the Metrodome. I could go out in there and shag fly balls, and I mean, I could be having a conversation with somebody and hear the crack of the bat, and then look and find it. I mean, I'd be like looking over my left shoulder, talking to Big Train, for instance, and all of a sudden you hear the crack of the bat, and somebody says, "Hey, left field, heads up," and I'll look up and find it right away.
Put it away.
I mean, I had no range, although I did get to play this. I love this. the first live scrimmage they do every year. It's basically a simulated game. They do it like the third. I think it's either the third day of camp, second or third day of camp. I got to play left field for that. It was a blast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jarvis Brown was my center fielder. So he had the gap. Jarvis had the gap. But I always talk about that because it was 92. It was coming off the World Series. And David West hit Pagliarulo in the right ear. It would have been the right ear, yeah, with a fastball. It like ruptured his eardrum. It like ruined his spring training. I mean, it put him well behind. I don't know if you remember that. But Pags took one off from Westy.
No, I just remember him getting cut in '93 because that's when I was like really starting to watch the Twins.
Yeah, I was a big Pags guy. He was a great guy. We had some vicious NHL Sega Genesis NHL hockey tournaments, and Pags was he was a brutal competitor. I mean, you didn't want to come up against him. He was blood and guts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, anytime the puck was bouncing in the crease, he'd yell, "Bouncing puck in the crease, most dangerous!" And he always giving analysis and stuff from the background.
That's too funny. Guthrie,
like if we'd put together brackets and have tournaments, and if you drew Guthrie would walk in, like he'd walk through the clubhouse door, stone face, and then he'd say, "Don't talk to me. You can't. I'm not talking to you today." Because
if he was starting that day too.
Can't talk to you. I mean, of course, he's being tongue in cheek, but
that's great though.
Oh, dude, we had a blast. Herbeck took it very seriously as well. I think I told you this. I got to play against Kent Herbeck in a game of NHL hockey on the Metrodome Jumbotron.
I think you maybe did tell me that actually.
We did it to piss off Randy Bush because Bush he got so fed up with video games in the clubhouse that especially if we played baseball games. Because we'd put him in. He wasn't always like in the default lineup that would come up in Major League Baseball, but we'd put him in just to piss him off, and because he'd be sitting there signing autographs and doing his fan mail, and we'd get him up, and we'd hit him into like a 6-4-3 double play, and he'd stand up and oh fucking hey Jeffy, what are you doing? Throw me into a double play. I don't want to be in the video game. And he'd just be hands up about video games, and he couldn't get away from it. And finally he's just like, I can't wait. It's time to go down and stretch. I'm glad it's time for BP. I'm going to go down and stretch and get away from these goddamn video games. And that's when Herbeck looked at me and says, "Dickhead." That was my nickname.
Yeah.
He goes, "Dickhead, we got to grab the console and go down to the control room and put it on the scoreboard just to piss off Bushy." We did. And
that sounds awesome.
Herbeck took me to the woodshed on the Jumbotron. It was a high and a low all at the same time.
Oh man!
But a lot of fun back in the good old days. Now I got to remember what we were talking. What the hell were we talking about? We're talking about the batting order.
Yeah, you're talking about
and the fact that Arcia can't catch a fly ball, and I was just flawless for 6 years at the Metrodome.
Yeah, I mean, you might get a call.
Well, you know what messed me up? Going outside. Like we went to County Stadium in Milwaukee. And somebody hit just a low line drive straight at me in left field. I took a step in, and then I realized, and it went over my head and hit the wall. And Puckett was in center field just laughing. He goes, "Hey, ain't like the Metrodome, is it, D-head?" just with his chuckle, he's yelling at me from center field. "D-head ain't like the Metrodome, is it?"
No,
it was hilarious.
One wrong step on a line drive, you're done.
Oh yeah, anything hit right at you. But seriously, I mean, I'm outside and I'm like, okay, now this is a problem. I mean, there's sun. I mean, I don't have the flip down shades. There's sun. There's shadow. This is hard. The Metrodome's like a controlled environment with constant light. I mean, there's no changing light. There's no setting sun. It's like, how do people have trouble in the dome? This shit's hard.
Yeah.
You get outside and
exactly.
It's Puck's over in center field, like laughing at me, like cackling, like that laugh he had.
Oh man,
that unmistakable laugh.
That's funny.
But anyway, so back to the final point. Arcia will never be an outfielder, will he? I mean, he'll always be a butcher. I mean, if you can't play outfield when you're young, it's not like you get better with age. Outfielders do not get better with age.
And it might even be an effort thing. I mean, it's really not that difficult to catch regular.
Or a concentration thing. Just he's stupid.
I mean, and you see it though in his plate appearances at times too, where he'll just try to muscle up pitches he can't even touch. And so he's an excitable kid, and he's obviously hit everywhere he's been but the big leagues. It's time to get with the program and start catching the baseball and hitting with some effort, with some concentration.
Hey, with the outfield right now, you know who's really earning his stripes?
Shane Robinson.
Nailed it. Yes. Well, seriously, I mean, I know.
He's
don't
playing
get me wrong.
tonight. He's starting tonight.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying they have found something here for the future, but I mean, the guy's playing a good defensive outfield, and he's getting some hits. He's earning some at bats right now. And right now, we can talk all we want about. Hicks was the right guy. I have no problem with Shane Robinson being here instead of Aaron Hicks. None.
Yeah, if you're going to push somebody off the roster to bring Hicks up at this point, it's Schaefer.
Mm-hmm.
Schaefer's a disaster, and At this point, Shane Robinson deserves to be on this roster.
And he might bump Santana. They might flip flop 9-1. Don't you think?
I don't know.
At some point,
I'm not that big of a Shane Robinson. I'm thinking it's Dozier at the top. If they
oh
go.
yeah.
But at the same time, he deserves more playing time, and they're going to give it to him until he reverts to his career numbers. But at the same time, he came up with the Cardinals, and one thing that Terry Ryan had said the other day was the Cardinals. I think the Twins kind of want to be like the Cardinals. You bring up the guys, they play the game the right way, and all that. And you get sick of hearing that, but. The guy in the outfield looks totally competent. He doesn't look like a journeyman outfielder. He looks like a guy who's comfortable out there and can make the plays. And if that's really your level of competency that you're requiring right now, then, hey, plug him in.
You know how many people the Twins have? How many people in the batting order right now? No, forget the regular lineup. Look on the entire Twins roster right now. Guys with at least 10 at-bats. We'll say 10 at-bats is the cutoff here. I mean, we've been playing for 2 weeks. That's not a lot of at-bats.
Right.
Guys with at least 10 at-bats hitting over 250 right now. How many? How many do you think?
One.
Yes.
Joe Mauer?
None. None.
Is Joe Mauer under 250?
Joe Mauer's at 250. And then you've got Chris Herman's at 333, but he's only had 9 at-bats.
3 for 9.
Okay, Shane Robinson. So they've got one. Because Shane Robinson's 9 for 19.
It was Mauer for a while, and then he's kind of slowed down.
Shane Robinson's hitting 368, and he's got 19 at bats. So he qualifies under my. So what do you need? 3.1 at bats per 9 innings to qualify.
3.1 plate appearances per game. Team game played.
Yeah, to qualify for batting champ or for batting average. So what do they play? 12 games. Yeah. So he wouldn't even qualify.
Still well under.
Yeah, he's still well under. So guys who would actually qualify. Statistically for batting average, Joe Mauer leads the team at 250.
Yeah,
250.
They're hitting like 214.
They're not hitting at all.
They're hitting 214 last I checked. And
puke.
They were last in batting average, last in slugging, last in on-base percentage. I mean,
stinky.
The trifecta of dead last, 15th in the American League. The fact that they've won 5 of 13 games is actually
Dozier's hitting 188.
Sort of amazing.
188.
Yeah, Plouffe and Dozier have had a couple of times where they've really struck a ball, like well struck. But otherwise, it's been just a debacle.
I mean, Suzuki, 182. You've got 2 guys with 2 home runs, Suzuki and Plouffe. Other than that, a couple of guys with 1. And nobody hitting over 250. That is just...
It won't get it done.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about, the bullpen and the rotation and, who bats where in the order and whether or not Garcia could catch a fly ball or if he's more likely to be concussed by one hitting him in the top of the head like Jose Canseco. That's what's going to happen to him someday. He's going to have a home run go off at the top of his head, Canseco style.
If it'll happen to anybody, it's him.
Yeah, but I mean, here it is, 250. Nobody hitting over 250 right now. That reeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously where they had expected to make their money this year because they were 5th in the American League in runs.
I see a 194. If you're going to drop fly balls, you can't hit 194.
You can't hit 294.
Well, yeah.
If you're going to flat out drop fly balls, you better get with the program
and come with some power. I mean, he's got 1, but I mean,
yeah, and I mean it's just non-competitive at bats. I mean,
that's the problem.
Just really bad.
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, and that is something that Molitor is going to have an appreciation for. I mean, it's early in the season. You're not going to get all. I'm getting a little bent out of shape over some numbers. We're 2 weeks in. 194 for 2 weeks. You know what? Great hitters have done far worse than 194 over 2 week stretches throughout the course of a season.
They'll go 0 for 2 weeks.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah. I mean, it happens. So I mean, you don't trip out over it. I mean, it's just we're making a point that this team's not hitting well right now, and it's a big reason why they're 3 games below 500. And really, it's their numbers that indicate they could be far worse than that in terms of one-loss record at this point. But if a guy like Molitor is looking for competitive at bats, he's looking for guys who are either you're jumping on good pitches early in the count, or you're working counts until you get your pitch. But you're not going up there and hacking and getting yourself out on bad pitches. You're not going up there and just standing there looking with your bat on the shoulder as good stuff goes by. There's kind of a fine line. I mean, you want to make a pitcher work. You want to get the pitch count up, and you want to get into a bullpen. I mean, really the goal of every team when you start a game offensively is to get into the bullpen as quickly as possible. You get into your opponent's bullpen, and you do that by building pitch count, and you do that by having good quality at bats where you make a pitcher work, where you see a couple of pitches. You make them show. I mean, every starting pitcher's got 3 or 4 good pitches, or at least that's what it takes to be a starting pitcher. You got to have 3 or 4 pitches that you can rely on. If a guy is up there getting people in these 2, 3, 4 pitch at bats, and then throwing 10 pitches an inning, then he's only showing you a pitch or 2. And then by the time he gets to the second and third time around through the order, he's still got a third and fourth pitch that he can show you. But if you get into some deep counts, if you get a guy throwing 20 pitches an inning, he's not going to get through. He's not going to get through a lineup twice because he's showing you his third and his fourth pitch, and he's not going to get through that lineup a second time time.
Yeah, I mean, at very least, you want 75 to 80 through 5, if not, 85, 90. That's what happened with Trevor May last time out. You were talking about how he struggled with the third time through the order, and guys weren't catching the ball as well, which is obviously going to add to that. And that also snowballs everything because it's more pitches you are throwing that you hadn't expected to, and you're showing that stuff again. Even if Trevor May has 3 pitches, if he needs to, show guys that more early in the game, if he's not trusting his defense and that kind of thing, it's easy to see why, even though May had like an ERA of 8 after that first start, you could sit there with a straight face and say he didn't pitch all that bad.
Hey, all in all, in closing, when you look at a rotation that, again, going into the season, you lose Santana. One start in, you lose Nolasco. You've had a bullpen that's been asked to do a little more than you want. You had some question marks in that bullpen, beforehand. You see a team that's hitting .214 as a team, and kicking around balls in the outfield. I'm not going to sit here and try to paint a rosy picture, but 5-8. It was 1-6 a week ago, so they had to recover nicely to get to 5-8. And I'm still not sure how they've done it. With a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I'll tell you how they've done it. They've had a handful of good starts. Gibson's given them a couple of decent ones. May gave him a good one. But all in all, again, you don't want to react too much to anything in the short term in baseball. But 5-8 could be 2-11. They can't be too upset.
Exactly, and I can't really add much more to that. They've actually turned around and been playing a whole lot better.
All right, thanks again to Brandon Warren, and thanks to Floyd's here in Victoria, and a real special thanks to our brand new beverage sponsor for the program, Coors Light. Really happy to have Coors Light.
Wish a happy birthday to someone named Brianna.
Yeah,
too,
Brianna.
right?
Brianna's 23rd birthday. I almost forgot. Brianna, happy 23rd birthday. I don't know if she's here anymore, but happy birthday to Brianna, 23. This has been Twins Tuesday. I'm Jeff Dubay.